Hello and welcome back to the College Esports Recap Report. I'm your host Kbot, and I'll be taking you through all of the craziness that unfolded from the Collegiate Rocket League Conference Playoffs and National Championship from this past week. We've got a lot to cover today, so without any further ado, let's dive right in. When the Eastern Conference Playoffs started on Thursday, November 17th, things were already off to a bang. Indian River State College knocked off the Spring 21 champions of the Akron Zips with a scoreline of 4-2 in round 1. Penn State put up a good fight against the CRL World Champions in Northwood Blue, taking them to a Game 7 in their round 1 matchup. The series was tied until Lion Blaze sent the ball right into Penn State's open goal, with Hockey scoring not long after. The Timberwolves ended up walking away with that series victory. Meanwhile, Northwood White defeated WVU in their round 1 matchup, advancing on to semifinals to meet up with their sister squad, Northwood Blue. The series itself was a pretty strong back and forth between the two Timberwolves squads until Northwood Blue gained the upper hand in Game 5 and closed it out in Game 6. Northwood Blue proceeded to advance to the Eastern Finals, where they faced off against Fisher College. Falcons were only able to take a single game off of Northwood before handing the series on over. That left Northwood Blue, Fisher College, and Indian River State College advancing to the championship bracket on Saturday. But before we can get there, we have to talk about the Western Conference Playoffs, which took place on Friday, November 18th, and over-delivered on the promised craziness in CRL. UNLV, who went undefeated in all of league play, faced off with their round 1 opponent against Missouri S&T. This was a team they had beaten in week 2 3-1, so they were pretty much expected to advance. But in a shocking turn of events, Missouri S&T was the team that pulled ahead with their 4 game wins necessary to move on and sent the Rebels packing to an early conclusion for their weekend. Then Missouri S&T went on to face the Ottawa Braves in the Western semifinals. The series was much tighter, but the Miners managed to pull through in 7 games. Columbia College soared through their side of the Western bracket, taking wins over Oregon and Boise State before meeting Missouri S&T in finals. Columbia College found their dominance once again, especially after subbing in JD. The Cougars were able to take the clean sweep, nice and easy, over the Miners. It was Columbia College, Missouri S&T, and the Ottawa Braves who were proceeding on to the championship bracket. In the first round, the CRL first-timers of IRSC took Missouri S&T to a Game 7. Indian River State College established an early lead into the final game, closing it out 2-0 over the Miners. IRSC then met Northwood Blue in the semifinals and took a quick Game 1 over the Timberwolves. While Northwood answered back with their own game win, the confidence of the IRSC squad was incredibly difficult to break. It was they who ended up taking 3 more wins over the Timberwolves and sent them down to the lower bracket early. Fisher College, the other CRL first-timer, took a quick win over the Ottawa Braves before moving on to face the CRL Titans of the West, Columbia College. The casters, the chat, and the CRL history books all favored the Cougars in this matchup, but the Falcons did put up a pretty good fight before ultimately surrendering. The Timberwolves took the win over the Braves in the lower quarterfinals 4-2, while the Falcons reigned victorious over the Miners 4-1. With Missouri S&T and Ottawa both eliminated, we had our final 4 teams vying for the championship on Sunday. With a roster comprised of RLCS players, it was no surprise that the Fisher College Falcons were in the final 4 of their first playoffs appearance in their first CRL season. During league play, they made quite a splash, going nearly undefeated and taking wins over some of the most storied programs, including Northwood Blue and the Akron Zips. Indian River State College was another team of CRL first-timers who didn't quite have as dominant of a performance in league play as their peers. But despite this, they proved that they were able to keep up with some of the best CRL teams, especially after knocking out both Akron and taking the series against Northwood Blue in the lead-up to Sunday's games. Despite some surprising losses during the league play stage, everyone expected the Columbia College Cougars to make their way into the championship bracket and into the Final Four. The team regained their footing after subbing JD back into the roster over the weekend and looked to make their conference proud as the last Western team left standing. And then, of course, there were the reigning CRL World Champions themselves, the Northwood Blue Timberwolves. Favored to win the entire event, they remained a seemingly final boss for the event. While they took a couple of surprising losses during the regular season, nobody doubted their ability to clutch up when it matters most and potentially take home yet another championship. To start off the games on Sunday, in the lower semis, Northwood Blue met up with Fisher College for a rematch. Each team had taken a series off of the other this season, and now a loss here meant going home. The Timberwolves seemed to regain their confidence though in the new day, taking a quick victory over Fisher College 4-1. Then, Columbia College took a clean sweep over Indian River State College 4-0 in the upper bracket finals, advancing to grands. IRSC and Northwood met for yet another rematch, but this time in the lower finals. Despite the CRL first-timers' best efforts, it seemed like Northwood continued to rev up their engines and pick up their confidence, as the Timberwolves were able to close it out in just 5 games. That means that the grand finals were set up to be a true East versus West clash. The championship bracket was a mirrored image of what happened the spring 2022 season, where Columbia College had fought all the way through the losers bracket to meet up with Northwood, who was waiting in grands. But this time, the tables were turned. Would Columbia have it in them to close out the series over Northwood, or would Northwood show up like we've seen from them time and time again to claim another trophy? Northwood would need 2 best-of-7 victories over Columbia in a row to reset the bracket and take home the championship. But as they started in the first game, the series was quickly tied up and looked like it could go that distance. With just 30 seconds left on the clock, Buddy from Northwood was able to break the tie with a swift goal. Columbia College answered right back in Game 2, taking the game with a 1-0 scoreline, a goal put up by Cryptic after a demo from Cam took out Buddy from Northwood. Throughout Game 3, you could start to see the Cougars' confidence grow a little bit as they answered each of Northwood's goals and then established a 3-goal lead over the Timberwolves in that game to go ahead in the series. And now, with each goal over Northwood, Columbia was drawing closer and closer to taking home the championship. But Northwood wouldn't be the former CRL champions if they didn't go down without a fight. The Timberwolves took a 2-goal lead over the Cougars and ultimately ended up taking Game 4. Columbia then tightened up their defenses in Game 5 and were able to hold off the Timberwolves to a 3-1 scoreline. So this was it. A game win for Columbia meant the championship title, something that the Cougars had been working for 5 CRL seasons. Within the first 22 seconds of the game, Cam had already scored a goal, and feeding off that excitement, Cryptic scored yet another goal for the Cougars, with 4 minutes still left to play on the clock. Northwood started to shake a little bit, but they didn't let the Cougars' goals faze them too terribly much. Hockey and Buddy each answer with goals of their own to equalize the game at 2 goals apiece. 3 minutes left on the clock. Northwood was fighting tooth and nail to stay alive in the bracket, while Columbia was fighting just as hard, knowing they were just 1 goal away from becoming the victors of this CRL season. As the time was ticking down, neither team could quite find a way to sink a goal despite having plenty of opportunities. Each team tightened up their defenses and continued fighting to make sure that their opponents couldn't find the back of the net as time ticked down to 0. Neither team had a chance to breathe heading into overtime, their tanks full of pure adrenaline. About 30 seconds in, Cryptic took 2 shots towards the Timberwolves net, each sent away by the crossbar, the 4th teammate for Northwood. At 1 minute and 36 seconds into overtime, Buddy had an incredible save against Cryptic's shot towards the net. Lion Blaze tried to cut across the net to save the follow-up from Cam, but to no avail. Cam hit the ball perfectly placed into the bottom right corner, and neither Lion Blaze nor Buddy in the net could save the goal. The Cougars had done it. Columbia College had emerged victorious as the champions of CRL Fall 2022. JD, who they subbed in for 1 league play match and for all of playoffs, proved to be a massive part of Columbia's victory, combined with the pure star power of both Cam and Cryptic. Throughout the season, Cam ended up having the highest average goals per game, as well as shots per game. Cryptic led the season in assists per game. JD shared some important insights after the match.
We're going to do a lot of celebration. This is a time to celebrate, but that's right. I think it's important for us to remember that this is just fall championships. Not only are teams going to get better, but Fisher and Northwood are going to wake up after this and so they're going to get better. So it's important that we keep on grinding and keep this momentum going on into spring and then eventually Worlds.
Oh my gosh, he wants to become a CRL world champion, ladies and gentlemen.
100%. That's when I came here. That's the one thing I told both of them was I want to win Worlds. That was the plan.
With a national championship under their belt, Columbia plans to aim for the title of World Champions. Through making it to Grand Finals, both Columbia and Northwood Blue earned their spots in the CRL World bracket. But of course, before we get there, we've got an entire another season of CRL League play to go through. We're real excited to see what happens when CRL Spring comes around in January. Thank you for watching this CENN Recap Report. While CRL may have come to a close, our coverage of collegiate esports has not. Be sure to follow us to stay up to date on all of the college esports action.